recording, and we're ready to get going. I am so excited to be with you. I'm glad that you're able to find your way here. Sorry about the link snafu, but you were all able to navigate here correctly. So I really appreciate your flexibility as we got there together. Just a couple things as we're going to get started. You'll notice that at the bottom of your screen is a little menu of Zoom options. And if you've never used this tool before, we're going to be leveraging and using the chat feature quite a bit. There are up to 150 of you or 170 of you who have registered to join us today, and we still have a lot more people who are joining us. If you go to the chat feature and drop in a question, I have two moderators who are going to be helping us today. John Mitchum and Eric Johnston are two of my colleagues here in Albemarle County, and you'll notice I think a few of them have added some messages in there to welcome you. Any question that you have, they'll be able to answer, and if it's something that a lot of you are asking, John and Eric will pass that on to me, and we'll be able to talk about it verbally as well. I am, again, so excited to be with you today. And we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so my name is Adam Seipel. I am a learning technology integrator in Albemarle County Schools, and Albemarle County surrounds the town of Charlottesville. I live out in Waynesboro with my family. I've got two little boys. One is a 7-year-old, and his kindergarten teacher is signed up to join us, so I'm very excited that our community is here. And then also I have a 3-year-old, and he sometimes makes appearances in these. So you may get to see one or both of them as we're going. At any point, if you have, or moving forward, if you have questions, you can reach out to me at Adam Seipel on Twitter or adamseipel@gmail.com. And I truly mean this, not just today, but 5 weeks from now, or when we get back to school next fall, or whenever that might be, shoot me an email and I'll be happy to help you in any way that I possibly can. I'm very excited about the collection of educators who we have joining us today. We have people from all over the world who have signed up. So not just around Virginia, where I know a lot of us are educators, but we also have educators from California. We have teachers who have signed up from Lagos and the Philippines and Nigeria. So truly, I welcome you to this session, and I hope that you find something that is helpful for you as we're going together today. I like to start these sessions off by doing a short description of agreements, and to me, these are ways that things will just go very smoothly as we're learning together today. So the first is grace, and offer grace to yourself. Things might go well, things may not work well all the time. Grace, grace, grace is a common mantra that I've been kind of repeating over the last few weeks. Grace to our students who are trying to learn in a way that they've never had to learn before. Grace to our peers. I think that's always important as we're trying to work through what educating children looks like from our homes. Going to also talk about grace to whatever might pop up behind us, right? So as I mentioned before, my 3-year-old has dropped into a few of these meetings, and I have a dog. You might have pets going on too. Our spouses might drop in. Who knows what's going to happen? Last week I was in a Zoom meeting, and my 3-year-old was dancing without any pants on to Baby Shark. So it can get a little bit crazy. Hopefully we won't see any of that going on today, but grace if it does happen. The next thing is ask. If you have a question, drop it into the chat, and the moderators will help you. Two of the most knowledgeable guys I know, that's why I reached out to them. Then I ask you to try something new. There's a chance that you've used Google Classroom before, that some of you may have been using it for years. But I also challenge you, try to find at least one new thing that you're going to try. And as we talked about before, offer yourself grace if it doesn't go perfectly that first time. The next is support and sharing. So with this, when we're done, if there is something in the session that you think a a coworker could benefit from, please pass this on to them. We have this session going again in about 2 weeks from yesterday, and there are definitely spots available, so have them sign up and they can join us. You can also give these slides to them. We have screen recordings on my resource website, so any of those means they'll be able to see it. And finally, we're all in this together. And originally this said VA for Virginia, but as I mentioned before, that doesn't quite encompass the community of educators we have. And doesn't matter, you know, what town, what state, what country you live in, we're all here to support our students. We're all in this thing together, trying out what learning could be like. So we're going to continue on and start exploring what is Google Classroom. Before we get into this short video, I'm going to offer up my description, and it's only 3 words. Google Classroom to me is simple, it is organized, and it is connected. And as we're looking through this video, I want you to think about what would you add, okay? What would be some descriptions that you'd pop in there too? And once the video is done, we're going to open up our mics, and 1 or 2 of you, or maybe 3 to 5, will be able to share how you would describe Google Classroom. Okay, so at this point, I would like you guys to be able to unmute if you'd like to share. What would you add to this description? And we'll hear from a few different folks.
It's collaborative.
Absolutely, thank you.
You're welcome.
Who else would like to share?
It's colorful.
Thank you. It is very colorful. That is definitely the case.
Very interactive.
Thank you, Brian. Interactive. Yeah, we can get in there and be able to make changes, and it's all drag and drop, so it makes it very, very simple. Let's hear maybe 1 or 2 other folks who'd like to share out.
I think for non-technical people, it's very doable.
Okay, non-technical people, Beth. I agree. I love, and that kind of goes back to my first point of it being simple, that doesn't matter what your skill level or expertise, you can get in there and be able to make it work for you. I think there is one other person who is starting as well.
I was going to say it supports independence.
Yeah, regardless of what age level you support in your classroom, that we can have a level of independence. That's great. Any final folks want to share out? Dustin, you've been patient.
I was saying, as of right now, it's essential.
It's what? I'm sorry?
Essential.
It's essential. Okay. I feel like we're making a good commercial for Google Classroom right now, and I'm cool with that. All right. So I love the descriptions that you guys brought in. I am going to mute us all again, and we will pause in the future to hear from you guys at different points. All right. So we're going to transition to getting to Google Classroom. So there are a couple different ways we can do it, but for our purposes, here are the two that I'm gonna really put out to you. The first is to just do a search for classroom.google.com. If you put it into the URL at the top of the screen, it will take you there. The other option is if you're in a Google tool, and I know a lot of us often will be, if you click these 3x3 grid, I like to call it a waffle menu, then it will come up with all of your different Google apps, and you can select the Classroom logo, which we see right here. So we're going to transition to Google Classroom now, and we'll start coming back together in about 1 minute. If you need help with that, again, we have our moderators who can assist. Just a quick heads up, if this is the very first time that you've gone to Google Classroom, you'll probably see this icon pop up, this picture pop up, and it will ask you to pick a role. Please pick that you're a teacher. If you pick that you're a student, you can still do the majority of the things we're going to be looking at doing today, but ultimately there might be some extra steps that we'll need to take. So please pick that you're a teacher, and you'll be in good standing. All right, so just knowing what the next few minutes are gonna look like, I'm gonna give you the heads up that for some of you, you're gonna be switching back and forth from the screen that you control, and then you may choose to also be able to view my screen, and you might have to manage a few different programs at once to be able to do that. I will do my best to also narrate any action that I'm taking on my screen so that you can hear it as well as seeing it if you choose to do that. So I'm hoping that right now all of us have made it to classroom.google.com and that you're seeing a page in Google Classroom. Some of us have been in here before. You may have your own classes. You may be a member of a class where you receive professional development, or maybe your administrator has the entire staff in a class. Right now, this account that I'm in has one class. We can see that there's a card for my demo class. I have one student in it. If you are brand new to Google Classroom, you're probably seeing a prompt to click the plus sign in the top right corner. I'm going to do that right now. When you create a class, we do so by clicking that plus sign and then coming down to create class. Right now, I would like everybody to create a class, okay? So when we do that, it comes up with these four sections that we can fill in. The very first thing is class name. This is the only of the four, this is the only field of the four that is required. So this is going to be my practice class. And you can name it something authentic if you want. So if you teach third grade, my wife teaches third grade, you could drop in Mrs. Seipel's third grade class. If you are a biology teacher, you could put biology. You know, you can make it authentic, or if you just want a sandbox to try things out in, you can do that too. The next box is, I would say, mostly for secondary teachers. This is section. You can also think of it as class period. So this one might be 3A. The next box that we can fill in is what subject. And as I start typing in biology, these different biology courses pop in. Again, this is completely optional, but I do want to at least model it for you. And then our room number, I'm in room 32, and so I can drop that in there as well. When I have all four of these fields, or however many of these fields I want to fill in, I'm going to come down to this blue create button. And in the background, a lot is going on, right? So my classroom is being set up. And it's also linking. I know someone said interactive. I said connected. It is connecting to all of, to several other Google tools in the background. And we're going to see how those all connect in just a moment. Okay. So now on my screen, and I'm guessing for you as well, you're probably getting some different boxes that are popping up, inviting you to do some different things in here. You might get some notices about new features as well. Some things that we're going to notice, I have my class name that's very prominent here, practice class. Beneath that, it says a class period. I have something called a class code, and we're going to get into what that means in just a moment. And then we have this picture. We're not going to do anything with the picture now. That will be our last stop at the end of our session today. When I'm in a new tool, I always like to start in the top left and kind of work my way around. So we're going to do that together today, okay? So in the very top left of your screen, you'll probably see 3 horizontal lines. I call this a hamburger menu. You'll notice a nice food theme. So I'm going to click on those 3 lines. That's our menu. And when I'm here, I can navigate back to all of my classes, which right now I only have 2. You might only have 1. I can go to a calendar. And this isn't particularly helpful right now because we don't have any events or assignments. But once you start using this on a regular basis, or your students, particularly in secondary, might have multiple assignments from their different teachers, they'd be able to see a calendar view of every upcoming assignment and be able to click and get those assignment details. As we go down, we'll see here all of my classes in which I'm a member. I can find archive classes, and then finally settings. We're going to drop down to settings right now. So again, to access this, I'm in my class. I'm going up to the hamburger menu in the top left, and then all the way down to settings. And in here, just a couple things that we want to talk through. I kind of like to turn off most of these settings about email notifications. So I'm going to turn all of them off. Nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back and change that. Okay, so I turned them back on. Some settings that you probably will want on would be if a student turned in late work and if they resubmitted. I'm going to turn off all the other ones. And the reason that I'm doing that is, for the most part, I'm going to be in Google Classroom on a pretty regular basis right now, right? This is where how I'm interacting with my students. But I'm not going to always look back at past work. So by triggering these 2, I'll know to go back in and see the assignment that my kids were supposed to turn in a week ago. But yes, is there a question? Okay. So again, late submissions, resubmission, those are my 2 main ones. Now that I have this set up, I'm going to go back to my hamburger menu and head back to my practice class. And it will keep those settings that I did. You'll notice that at the top of our screen, we have these 4 different tabs. The first is stream. Then we have classwork, people, and grades. And we're going to bounce through what these 4 different ones are. You can think of the stream as like a social media feed. So if you're on Facebook or Twitter, this is where when you first get in there, this is like the news feed, and you'll be able to see all of the actions of your class. So if you make if you post a resource, that's going to show up in here. If you create an assignment for your students, they'll be able to see it as soon as they come in through the stream. Next one, and this is where we're going to be spending a lot of our time, is classwork. So let's all head to classwork at this point. And what is the most prominent thing that we see in here? If one person would like to unmute for a second and just tell me what stands out.
Create button.
Create, absolutely. Okay, so when I just want to click it like that. When I see something like that, I'm going to click on it all day long, right? And when we get in here, there are a few different things that we can create: assignments, quiz assignments, questions, materials. We can reuse things from the past that we've created. But the one I want to focus on first is the last one, and that's topic. So let's go ahead and click on topic. And in here, we're going to be organizing our courses probably differently today than we would have 2 months ago before we all started working from home. So in here, I might make this, my first topic may be May 4 through 8. And this is going to be all of my materials for that week. Now, a little trick that I want to show off, especially for my K2 folks, if you do a right click in this box, look at this very first option in here. It says emoji. So I can drop in a picture. It's not coming up for me right now. Let me do it from another window. Okay. So when I'm in here, I do my right click in emoji, and I think it's because my screen share, but I'm guessing that for you, the emoji option is coming up and that you'd be able to add that in here. Can John or Eric, can you confirm that that's going on?
It is coming up.
Okay, cool. So thank you, Cheryl. So you'd be able to pick, if you had a new learning target, you could find an emoji of a target. If you're moving into something learning about plants, you could bring in an emoji of a plant and bring in those visual cues for our students. So I'm going to keep mine as May 4 through the 8th and click my topic. And so now in here, I can start adding different resources to this topic. To do that, I'm going to click where it says create. And this time, instead of going down to topic, since I already have that, I'm going to do an assignment. When I first heard about Google Classroom back in the summer of 2014, yes, I know it's nerdy that I can tell you exactly where and when I was, where I was and when it was that I first used Google Classroom. Atlanta, June 2014. Yeah, I outed myself. It's cool. I was the most excited about this feature, okay? Being able to make assignments. And the reason I like it is because, well, I'm not gonna share it quite yet. So the first thing we wanna do within this assignment is give it a title. So I'm gonna call this Choice Board May 4 through 8. My instructions we'll get to in just a second. That is optional. And now I'm going to add some materials to this assignment. So down beneath instructions, we have this paperclip with an add button. And we'll go through how to do each of these four, but for right now, we're gonna look at Google Drive. So I'm selecting Google Drive. This is gonna bring up my entire Google Drive. I'm gonna come in here and find choice board. Here's one. We'll do this one. And now add. And check out what happens when I select one of these items. It comes in here, I can get a little thumbnail view. I can click and it links back to the original, so I can go back and make changes if I need to. But to the right, it gives me a drop-down menu. By default, it makes the option students can view file. They can't do anything to it. This could be helpful if you're giving them a short story, or maybe there's an article about a science concept that you're learning about. You may want your students to view file. We also have the option, if you click on that, where students can edit file. Now, I want to warn you, this means all of your students are editing the same file. Now, there are times when I absolutely love doing that, okay? I'm a big fan of this concept called shared notes, where you have a different topic for every slide and people are just going in and adding their ideas. I love it. For the most part, this final one's going to be my bread and butter. Make a copy for each student. So what this does, it uses the template that I created in Google Docs and that I attached. And now all 12 of my students are going to get their own copy, be able to do their work and submit directly in Google Classroom. Now, there are other things that I can add in here too. I can add a link. So if there's a Starfall website or a resource or some BrainPop things, I can drop those in here just by, I can copy and paste it and then add link. I'm going to just add google.com to model what adding a link looks like, so we can see it here. I can add a file. So if there's something that's on your desktop and you want to upload it, you can do that. But the one I really like, this final one I love. So I have another PD session called YouTube, the best learning tool ever. And I really believe that. So with this, if I know that my student, or my son is learning about renewable resources, again, he's a first grader, I can do a search for that. It's going to come up with videos about renewable resources. Now, quick thing to look at, the bottom of this video description, it tells me that it's 13 minutes long. My first grader is not going to watch a 13-minute video unless it starts with a Disney logo. So I'm going to go through and find one that's 3 minutes or maybe 2 minutes. We'll say this one. Now I add it. Now I hope a lot of you are like having an alarm right now, like you didn't watch the video. Well, check out what I can do. So I'm going to just click right here. It brings up my video, and now I can preview it before I share it out to my students. And we would want to make sure that we preview the entire video, not just the first 10 seconds or so. All right, so now I have a few different resources in here. I have one where it's making a copy for each student. On the right-hand side, we're gonna run through this too. I can choose if I want it to be going to one class, or if I teach multiple sections of the same subject, I can tag it that way. In my class, I could post it to only certain students. If I had a class roster right now, I could go through and select the 5 students who I want to receive this, and leave out the 13 who I don't. Now, to me, this is a killer feature when we think about trying to differentiate, and when we look at accessibility. Sometimes we need to adapt our resources, and it could be adapting it based on student interest, right? If I know that this one student is building a treehouse with his dad right now, I might bring in some things about, well, here's how you measure, right? And I can really start to adapt to meet my students' interest. Continuing down, we can look at points. You can type in any number of points. So if I wanted this to be worth 250 points, I can do that. If I don't want it to be worth any points, but I want them to submit something, I can just do ungraded. Continuing down, if I want to add a due date, brings up a calendar, I can do that. You can also do a time with that. I'm going to tag it to May 4th through 8th as a topic. Notice that you can also create a topic from here, so you don't need to do that step in advance. And we're going to skip over rubric and originality reports. I will be talking about those on Thursday in the Google Classroom 201, and that will be repeated 2 weeks from today if you weren't able to make it to our session on Thursday. All right, so I filled in the title. I can give directions here. So now that I have multiple resources, I might say, please, let's see. So item 1, I want you to complete using the information from the other resources, submit when done. I like to think of this as like a direction table of contents, right? So then my next one, part 2, do your searching here. Part 3, watch this video and talk about it with your parents. Okay, so now when my student comes to their assignment, even without clicking any of these resources, they know how I want them to engage with the material, again, before they click into anything. The final interaction that we have right now is going to be in the top right corner. I could just click assign and it goes live right now. Or if I click this drop down, I get the option to schedule it. So I could say, you know, this is the choice board for May 4th through the 8th. I want it to go live on May 3rd so that parents are able to see it before it goes live, okay? So I didn't want to do date, okay. So I'm going to go schedule, and I can pick that it goes live May 3rd at 8 a.m. and I don't have to do anything. I'll get a notice in my email at 8 a.m. on May 3rd telling me that it is there. I will model what it looks like if you just hit create. So we'll get rid of our schedule. I'm hitting assign. They will immediately see it. And now check this out. So it's making its copies, so that's why it might take a moment. It's also posting on Google Calendar. I have my topic May 4th through the 8th. I have my first assignment here, choice board May 4th through the 8th. When your student clicks on it, they get the additional details, how they're supposed to engage with each of these different components. For me, it tells me that I have 0 turned in and it's been assigned to 0. Now, if you have 18 kids in your class, right now it would say 18 that it's been assigned to, and 0 have turned it in. To me, a really cool feature about this is that I won't have to refresh my page, and I'll start to see the numbers go from the right-hand column over to the left-hand column. And again, I don't need to make any changes. I don't need to refresh. It'll just update automatically. So that is kind of the main feature, the main type of resource that we would create in Google Classroom. Material, just to talk about that very quickly. Material is, you want to get them a resource, but they don't need to do anything. They don't need to submit it back. So this might be, if there was a, hey parents, here is how we're going to best do distance learning right now. And you could put that in here. You might also email it, but again, this would be kind of like a one-way communication where you're not expecting to receive anything back from your students. I'm kind of brushing over the quiz assignment, the question, and this reuse post right now because those will be covered tomorrow. And I want to make sure that we're able to get through all of our stuff today. Some other things that you might be seeing in here, to the right of create, we see Google Calendar and then also Class Drive folder. So these are two of the tools, two of the Google tools that Classroom is deeply integrated with. So I could click on here, and as soon as you make a Google Classroom class, it makes a new calendar for you in Google Calendar, and it would do that for anyone who's a member of your class so that it will automatically show up. You could share that calendar feed with parents, and they'd be able to consistently see any new assignments or posts that you make in your class. It also will make a folder in your Google Drive for every single assignment that you do, and it creates that entire structure for you. Again, I wish this was something that existed back when I was still in the classroom. I would have saved a lot of time by that existing this way. So I know we very quickly went over the classwork tab. We are going to move on to the people tab. So in people, right now, we can see that there is just a teacher, right? And we don't have any students. So to add students, there are two different ways that we can do this. Traditionally, I would encourage you to just use this invite code. You know, we're in class with our students. I put the code up on the board. When our students log into Google Classroom, they click that plus sign, select join class, and they would drop in this code that's on my screen right now. Because we're doing distance learning, we may want to shift to this option here where we have the person silhouette with a plus sign. So when we click on that, it says invite students. So in here, I can start typing in their name. So we have, we'll do Carter. Let's see, why aren't these coming up? Okay, so I could pick Adam as one. And when I'm ready, I would click invite. And my student would receive a notice, an email notifying them that they were invited. The other thing that would happen for them the next time they log into Google Classroom, they'll see my course, and there'll be a blue button on that course card, and it will it'll ask them, do you accept the invitation? If they click yes, then they're a member of your class and they're good to go. So again, for most of us right now, we would want to click and add their name. So this is, and I can click Eric and be able to invite him.
I have a question for you.
Yes, Cheryl.
If we're creating a classroom, let's say I'm doing some tutoring after school, I want to put it into a classroom situation. I can have students from different schools, like I may have one from this elementary school and that elementary school, but we get together at the end of the day. Can I make them a classroom, or they have to be within the same school?
So that's a really good question. For the most part, if you're in the same school district, you should be fine.
Okay.
Depending on how your technology department or whoever the admin is for your school district's Google account, I would say most likely you're fine. Some districts allow anyone to join a class, so you could have a class from a neighboring district or like a pen pal class, and it could even work that way. It is really like a local decision on that.
Decision. Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so that's our people tab. Notice that you can add a co-teacher. So I want John at adamsapel.com. He's going to be my co-teacher, and invite. So we can have more than one teacher. We can have more than one, we'll have more than one student as well. All right, we're not going to really look at grades too much, but know that there is an option of being able to have an entire grade book within here and be able to track how your students are doing, make different categories, weight things different ways. I haven't used this a whole bunch, but it is an option, and it is something that we'll be looking at together in 201 if you're continuing on with me. All right. At this point, I'm going to return to our slides and just make sure that I'm hitting everything that I wanted to. I really wanted this to be more of a demo than just being attached to slides the whole time. So we wanted to talk about topics. We discussed how we can use it for organizing our course. You could have it where here is a topic for kind of non-academic topics and just checking in with your kiddos. You can have different topics for those academic skills as needed, or organizing it by the week. I know that would be probably the structure for my son's school. They're doing a weekly choice board, so I would lean into that. We looked at assignments. I do want you to notice that on the assignments page in our slides, I do have a video that will go over that too. So you can go back and review on your own as well. We looked at how to add students, and we talked about using the join code. So if you're doing regular communication with the families, you could put that join code in there and provide a link to Google Classroom, and they'd be able to get in there as well. This video also talks about how do you add guardians. That's going to be a topic that we get into tomorrow, but you might be able to share this video with them in that communication so that they can take care of both of those steps. The next part that we're going to get into is themes. I always like to end with an aesthetic thing and kind of just fun. So in here, we have practice class. We have this big picture here. You also notice that down below, we now have a first post. As I mentioned, anything from classwork is going to show up in the stream. But for our purposes right now, we're going to select theme. So I'm back in stream, looking at this banner, select theme. And in here, there are probably like 60 different ones that are already built. So you can go in and customize, find one that you really like. So I'm going to use this one here. And I kind of like that one. When I select my class theme, you'll notice that all of the colors in here, and I remember someone saying that it's colorful before, all of the colors change. So as I hover over something, it's going to be purple instead of orange. When I go back to this home page in here, that picture is similar for my kids too. One quick piece of advice, even if you are a secondary teacher and you teach the same class 8 different times, I would encourage a different color, a different banner for each of them, so that visually you can just look at it and be like, oh yeah, I know this is my 3rd A block. I'm going to click on it and be able to get it. It's not required, but to me, it's just a little helpful thing that we can do. You can change those at any time as well. I know that there are some teachers who will put, you'll notice here it says upload photo. I've worked with some teachers who every single day they'll put, here's our topics that we're doing or our targets that we're going to be working towards. And so that when their students log in, it's the very first thing they see, and it just reinforces where they're going. All right. So we are going to continue on. We'll have a bit of a time for asking questions too. If you could head back to your copy of the slides, if you have those, I want to share this resource that I think you're really going to like. So I'm on slide 12. It says learn more in the Google Teacher Center. And I want to show you just how supported you are right now for any questions that you might run into with Google Classroom. So here I am clicking learn more in the Google Teacher Center. This is going to open up with resources about Google Classroom. So check this out. It has all these different training lessons that are free and built for you that you can go in. So how do I make fewer class copies? Well, I can click on that and learn. How do I get my class organized? I can learn how to do that in Google Classroom. But I want to show you one other piece that I think is really helpful with Google Classroom. And I'll drop the link to this in our chat in just a moment. So I'm going over to training within the Teacher Center. And in here, we can see Get Started with Google for Education. So there are lots of these different courses that you can take. Fundamentals, you can have advanced training. A cool thing for me is that if you sign in, so you can see this big blue sign in button in the top, it'll keep track of how much time you've spent. And in my district, at least, we can turn that in and be able to get renewal credit. So that's really a helpful way to be able to earn some points and to have some practical lessons along the way. About halfway down the screen, we can start to see these first day of, and I want this one, first day of Google Classroom. So you might need to use your arrow once to get over there. I'm going to click on first day of Google Classroom. Now I'm dropping this link into our chat, knowing that my moderators have probably already done it because they're awesome. Here we go. So in here, you'll notice that a lot of my videos came from here, right? So getting started with Google Classroom, that's something that we saw right at the beginning. We have something about the classwork page in Google Classroom. And then down below, how do I create a new class? How do I make an assignment? How do I get my students in to Classroom? All of that is available here so that we can have a reassurance that, you know, a week from now or even a couple hours from now, if you don't know how to do one of those steps we looked at together today, you can always come back to this resource and find the information you need. Or, you know, we look back to my second or third slide and we talked about the importance of sharing resources with our peers. You can share this with your entire school. And now all of a sudden, everybody can get onboarded to how do I reach out to my students? How do I create a class and so forth. All right, so at this point, I want to come back together and just thank you all for joining together today. I will have a moment for questions. In about 2 minutes, I'll be opening it up for questions. I do want to reiterate that you can connect with me at adamseipel@gmail.com. So if you have questions, you can reach out. You can also get in touch with me through Twitter at adamseipel. And be able to follow me there and you know, shoot me a question if you want. I do want to thank both of our moderators, John and Eric, for being able to help out today by fielding your questions. I couldn't have done this without you, so thank you both for your help. I also want to thank Vassal. Pam Moran and Liza have been very helpful to me to be able to get all of this going and sending emails out to y'all. And for making this completely free for educators from around the world. How amazing is that, right? So thank you to both of to Pam and Liza for being able to do that. The final slide that we're going to be talking about is feedback. So if you have the slides open, you can click in this top part and it'll take you to a quick Google form to be able to get some feedback from you. This is also where you'll go to get a certificate for renewal credit. You can head there. And the final question will be, do you want renewal credit? If you select yes, it will, after you hit submit, it will send you a copy within a couple minutes. So you can look out for that email. If you're just following along to the form, you can get there by going to bit.ly/VASCLBACK, and that will take you to our form. So at this point, once you've done the feedback, thank you for joining today. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you want to stick around and ask questions, I'll be happy to stick around for a while to answer as many of those as I can. I'll also be able to do some screen share as we do that. So go ahead, do the feedback if you would like, and you can stick around as well. Thank you, guys.